Hi everyone, welcome to Raphael. My name is Raphael, and every episode here is an interview, and we talk about design, development, work-life balance, expat life, mental health, history, and other cool stuffs. Welcome. First of all, super excited to have here one of super inspiration for me. Jessica is welcome for the podcast to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Dude, I was first of all, I have been interested in your career for a long time. You do a lot of things, right? If I remember correctly, you have, and if I remember correctly, you're now working for iFood, right?
No, I actually changed my job recently. I've been at OutZero for a month now.
Whoa! Where are you now? You can share?
Yeah, I'm working at OutZero, but I'm living in Brazil, so I'm still living in Brazil.
Yeah, but you plan to move out of Brazil or something that you want to stay in Brazil? I don't know.
Yeah, probably I'm going to move to Canada someday, but I don't know when.
Yeah, I know some people for Off Zero is I knew two guys and they're really good. I forgot their names actually, but seems to be a very nice company, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of in love with it. So yeah, a bit biased to say that I'm loving here. It's been an amazing experience so far, and I think it's gonna be great in the next coming years.
Yeah, no, I now I'm only expect just wishing you all the best. But
Thanks.
if I remember correctly, so now you have worked also for iFood, and now you're in the Alpha Zero, but you also have been in Brazil. You had like that Operação Serenata de Amor,
Yes.
and if I met you in the Caipira, I think it was Caipira, right?
Yeah, it
And
was.
in the time I think you were doing research about something with cancer cells using R. Like, what the hell? How you got those things and how you enter? Like, you always program it. Like, can there's so many subjects that I want to bring, but let's start you with this one.
Okay, so the short version is I studied programming in college. That's when I first learned about programming. And in college, I thought I was going to be more of a management person in the college I was doing, which was biomedical informatics. And biomedical informatics mixes computer science skills with health issues, basically. So I thought I was going to be in management, but then my area of study shifted to actually doing bioinformatics, which is analyzing data from like diseases like cancer or stem cells and getting more interesting feedback from like gene expression and things like this. So
Yeah.
after, I still in college. I did a bunch of research as someone that does research in college for my graduation, but I changed it a little bit to like getting to know the Python community by the end of my college time, let's say like this. And I got to know Python a little better, and I got interested in being part of the community, and I felt at home there, and things kind of progressed from there. So I shifted my focus of study from like genomic data to NLP, and I did my like conclusion thesis on college in NLP, analyzing tweet data in Python this time, not in R. And after that, I got hired from the Serenata project to be a data scientist and developer, and kind of became the spokesperson for the project during the time I was there, because I did many talks and wrote about the project a lot. So I kind of got known by that project in the Python community. And
Yeah.
afterwards, I moved to a different company. I worked at Noveo, which is a startup here in Brazil that did processes automation for clients. And after that, I worked at TV Global, which is the major TV company here. And then I went to iFood, and then now I'm at OutZero. So yeah, that's the short version of everything.
Yeah, let's just basically on everything that you said, let's go step by step. First step, like I suppose they're really smart because you change it like from a completely different thing from I mean ML and it's just like whoa, it's just always impresses me is yeah, I don't think that is quite easy. For you it was easy to change or something or like how you decided that. I mean it's not a completely change because you are programming in the time, but
Yeah.
now you're okay. Like I'm gonna be a full programmer, I suppose, and it is a changing, right?
Yeah, it's funny because it seems that everything is disconnected when I talk about it, but actually not. That's not the truth, right? So what I learned while I was doing like all of this different stuff is that actually there is much things in common in different areas. Let's say Serenata is focused on analyzing so expenses data in open data that we have available from the government, right? But when you do a k-means to see if genes put together in a cell, you still do a k-means to see if expenses put together in a expense data. So the tools that we use are the same, even though the data that we're analyzing and the objective is different, right? So kind of the things came together in a very, I don't know, very elegant way for me because the one thing that helped me was that I was always studying. I don't consider myself to be like a genius person, but I'm very hard worker, and I always study to be the best version of myself, right? So I want to improve a little bit every day, and it kind of, I don't know how it worked at the time because right now everything seems to like work together. But at the time, people didn't understand me. Like, why, if you are a bioinformatician, why are you going to events like Java Day inside Brazil? Or why are you going to Python community meetups when they are going to talk about web development? And I was like, I don't know. I like being in the community. I like going to events and I like learning about new stuff. And one thing that I noticed is that learning like new stuff, new concepts, new technologies actually help you do your job better, right? So it kind of came together pretty well, I think.
Yeah. No, I can. I mean, I can relate. My sister. I mean, for me, it's hard to relate personally because I started to program when I was 14. So I mean, I
Mhm.
wanted to be a cardiologist, but my mom was like, "No, you want a programmer." In the time, I thought that programming was not going to give me money, so I thought like, "Okay, I'm gonna be poor for the rest of my life." And then like surprisingly, programming actually could pay more than cardiologists later. But it's like for me, it was okay. I always wanted to be a programmer since I was a kid. But for my sister, she started to do mathematics studies, and now she's doing her master in programming. So she's basically picking up like everything that she learned about mathematics field, and she's like putting into like I don't know, like data. And she's basically like doing things that she never expects. She's working with Python for real, like doing things in the cloud, and she never coded anything in life before. But she's exactly like you said. She's really hard. She's a really hard worker person. Like she can spend like the whole day like really struggling in like fighting, and then the other day she just get better and better, and everyone's like, oh my god, she's a genius. But she's, I mean, for me she is, but she's really, how can I say, she put effort in everything that she does, and I really like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I love programming right now because it gives me the ability like to learn new things and meet new people. But programming is just a tool, right? You can do mathematics. People did mathematics before programming, right?
Yeah.
And people did analyze data before programming, right? So, but now we have this amazing tool that allows us to move past everything else that we already done. Like in bioinformatics, I was studying one thing that was called like microRNA, and people didn't know microRNAs existed until a while ago. But that was discovered because we added the power of programming into the analysis they did before, right? So programming is actually just a tool that
Yeah.
is kind of like very helpful. And if you like to study and if you like to apply yourself to like problems that you're trying to solve, it's kind of a fun way to actually solving things.
Yeah, I do agree. And that is the excellent part about programming. Like, doesn't matter what you do. I think that in most of the fields you can actually like put programming to help you. So always have been discussing a discussion about like should we kids like learn programming, because even if you don't want to, you can literally fit programming and logic like in a lot of fields that could help people.
Yeah. And if you keep thinking about like how careers evolve, many careers might evolve to do something with programming sometime, right? Like I have a friend of mine that works for like flight companies, right? That like
Mm-hmm.
and he actually writes macros on Excel to do what I consider programming, because he's programming like logic into functions inside of a spreadsheet and to get information for the company that he works at. So I think that's kind of a programming way of looking at the problem that he's trying to solve or the questions that is trying to answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, programming is amazing too. And considering like thinking about Python community in, for instance, let's say programming is a tool, but in the Python community, you also get like amazing friends from the Python community. Like you and me, we met like
Yeah.
a while ago. And because you mentioned now the Caipira, I was like thinking, oh, it was so long ago. It's like, I don't know, a lot of years ago. And I keep thinking, okay, so I not only have this amazing tool that I like to play with, I also have like found people that are interesting and that I like to talk to. And my best friends are from the Python community. So
Yeah.
you can have everything, right? You can have the fun tool to play with, like with technology, and you can have friends that wants to have fun also like programming and doing stuff like this. So yeah, it's kind of pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you just came with an excellent subject. Like the Python community for me, I mean, I have been different communities in Brazil for sure, from JavaScript to Elixir and other, even Ruby. I attended some conferences, but I never felt that it was the same energy as Python. Like Python Brazil is just I feel that it's more like at least the time that I used to go, I felt that was more like a family, like everyone knows each other, and everyone's so respectful, and they are always into like beginners. Actually, Python Brazil for years was having beginners in the lineup for the presentations, right? And it was so inclusive, because when you take in consideration other conference, they are always like, okay, this person from Netflix, this person from other place. And sometimes, I mean, basically most of the times, we lost the sense of what is the community is about. It's about people, not about the technology itself. And I really felt I mean, Python is still my Python. The community of Python Brazil is still my favorite community by far. I never felt like I really I mean, not only you, but the Caipira, I actually learned it and met a lot, and met a lot of people also, and like these people are very interesting for me. Like it just feels there is a long time ago, but the same way everyone had such a real and honest conversations in the event late, like the post after the event, right? And then I was just I really do appreciate the people that I met there.
Yeah, yeah, I totally see what we're talking about. Like there is a family sense to it. Everybody takes care of everybody, right? Like I remember my first Python Brazil, I actually twisted my ankle like in the first day of the event, and people did like a crowdfunding sort of to buy me crutches so that I could walk in the event, and people helped me like move the wheelchair in the center that we will have in the event and things like this. So yeah, people are always trying to feel everybody like everybody feel welcome in the event and feel included and part of like this big, huge family that I like to think of. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good community. Like I spoke in different conferences in Brazil, but every time that I spoke in the Python Brazil and Python events, it was just like, I mean, it's just you feel like doesn't really matter like you're for a speaker or anything. Like people going to talk with you, and it's inclusive and stuff like that. When I speak in other conference, people are like, "Oh my God, should I talk with this guy?" Like they're more afraid, because the environment create that. Like it's not about act like a speaker or like a douche, I don't know. But it's more like sometimes if the environment is not inclusive, like it's really hard to have this opportunity to like reach the other person. Like you felt like, oh my God, I should not be talking with that guy. But Python events, conferences was just like really amazing. Like I could talk with any speaker. Being a speaker, anyone could talk with me. I felt like the environment was so good, so well taught and carried also.
Yeah, it doesn't have a distinction between like the people that are watching the talk and the people that are presenting the talk. Like, is basically you feel like you are on the same level, even though like that person was talking for like a subject they want to learn, but you can, hey, I want to learn about this. Can you teach me a little bit? And it's like this kind of sort of friendship started as I see it. And the idea is basically that you can talk to everybody and get to know everybody, and many friendships come out of that, I think.
Yeah, I do agree. And I mean, but jumping back for the conversation that we had with about the project of the Operação Serenata de Amor, if I don't remember much, like I mean, I have a few. I never really talked much about it, but if I remember correctly, it was like you guys were using like Python for map data and show this data for people, right? Like trying to fight against corruption in Brazil, right?
Yeah, so Serenata's idea was actually to build on the skills of many bright people. So a bunch of, as people say, kids got together, and during the weekends they were analyzing open data to find, let's call it, unlawful expenses on some of the data that we had available, right? So Serenata idea was to build an artificial intelligence that could pinpoint things that should be investigated and could aid like politicians to expend money, like the government money, like the taxes that we pay, in a better way. Like we are as a population keeping an eye on like the bill, from the country. And because we had like this ability to analyze data and to program, which is, I think, that is not that common here in Brazil. I actually realized that, especially because people don't start at an early age to know what programming is like you did. But for like, take me, I only found out what programming was when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And Serenata's idea was to build this AI so that we could find these unlawful expenses and help the investigators find get back that money that was poorly expended back into the like coffers. So that was the idea behind Serenata, and the way to do it was like coding an AI and using Python to do it and talking about it and building like this conscience on what was data science and how we can use technology to help make people accountable for like the way they spend the public money. So that was Serenata's idea.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Also, like
Yeah,
I saw some things that you guys shared, like I think years ago, and I was really impressed because you guys are basically giving the power for the population about to know things. Like for example, like you said, my mom and or you can take like generations, like before after my mom, but it's like they really don't know like about much of tech in general. Like it's more about social network, social media itself, and like but they don't know how like technology could help them, like even to learn about stuff. And you guys were basically like showing like, okay, this is wrong, this is happening for years, and no one is even talking about it. And I mean, it's a really good job that you guys pulled off.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the team was great. And yeah, the main idea was to build this awareness that the population could like say, hey, you are accountable for this thing that you did. Or say, he like the law that say how you can spend this kind of money says that you can't spend this on like alcoholic beverages, let's say. So you should be expensing an alcoholic beverage when you are having like a dinner or so. You can expense the dinner, but not the alcoholic beverage. So things like this is very important because as a population, I feel that like Brazilians in general feel they can't do much other than voting right, you know. And when you have something like this, like Serenata as a project does, that shows, oh, hey, we as the people, we can do more than just trying to vote right, you know. We can like make sure that the people in government are accountable for what they do that is wrong. And it's not only the the work from the people that investigate this. You can aid in some kind of. So I think that's pretty powerful. It's like giving power to the people.
Yeah, no, I completely. I mean, I cannot say better than that. Like, I do think that you guys have done like a very amazing job. Like, and I mean, congrats about it. Like, should be proud.
Yeah, I am.
But changing the subject just a little bit, you do
Yeah.
also have a podcast, right? And
Oh yeah, I
you
don't.
do with I forgot her name, Leticia, right?
Yes, I do it. Well, yeah, I have a podcast about that called Pizza de Dados, and I do it with friends basically. So me, Leticia, and Gustavo, we founded the podcast to help people that don't speak English find a way like they can learn about data science in general in Portuguese. So we found because we are pretty privileged, we talk in English, we can read English, and so for us to study and to learn new things is pretty easy. But we were always discussing subjects on data science amongst ourselves, and we saw there was a gap in people that wanted to learn data science and that could learn data science because in Brazil, actually, less than 10% of the population speaks English fluently and they can learn in English, right?
Yeah.
So we are trying to kind of fill the gap to help people learn about data science the way that we could, but only in Portuguese, and also have like an excuse to interview people that we always admire on specific topics in data science.
Like I'm doing right now, but in English.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was about data science. Like, I'm gonna share with my sister because she's actually into that and she's still learning English. So I mean, it's a very good job that you guys are also doing. Like, I mean, for her, it's a little bit hard because she's now like learning Python and learning English in the same time.
Yeah.
So if she can like take something that is in Portuguese and like and know more about what that, because it's pretty confused. Like, remember when she started and she was like, so what I do like as a data scientist, like what is my job, like what I can do. And I was like, I mean, I can share some people that I know that work with that, and then like you can make questions to them. But she was pretty lucky on that because I could like answer the questions because I knew people that could help her, you know?
Yeah, I know.
But a lot of people they don't even have the connection. Like they want to learn more, like they want to be into that, and they just don't know. Like when I started programming as when I was a kid, I was completely lost because like I started to code by accidentally. You know the blogger, like the blogger tool that you could
Yeah.
like use HTML.
Yeah.
I started to do that because my father died and like my mom wanted to close his blog painting, and then I was like, okay, I just gonna close. Then I saw this HTML area and it was like, what the hell? What is this? And then I just searched it, but I didn't know what programming does. Like I was programming without even know that could be a job, and this is quite like it's a challenge because you don't know people that can like show you the path, and I think that is really good like when you do in the Portuguese, because there's so many things in English, then like it's just unreal the quantity of like things that you can find in English but you cannot like bring in Portuguese. I'm saying this, but most of the podcast this season will be English, so don't be disappointed with me, Brazil.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like, actually, Pizza de Dados became a thing because Leticia started a project that the community helped build, which was a dictionary. So basically, everybody did a PR to this repo on GitHub to add information about data science terms in Portuguese. We sources, the most of the sources were actually in English, but the idea was to how have this community build repo that people could like look up what is like a regression, what is a k-means, what is, I don't know, some kind of modeling tool or things like this. And it was funny because it was so like fast adopted, like people adopted it really fast and helped build it because that was something that was needed, right? To learn about something in Portuguese. So if you think about like me, I started at zero and I'm still learning about security, identity and authentication. And in my job here at Zero is actually being a developer advocate for the company. And amongst a lot of things that I'm learning about all of these things, I still had to come up with content because I'm going to produce content as my day job. And my boss was like, okay, I want to get you, like, help you get the feeling that you accomplished something. And so let's think about like your first video going to be something that is not authentication related, because then you have the processing of making a video. That's something that I don't normally used to do. The process of recording the video, editing it, making it like compelling for the people. And aside from learning all this stuff of video making, you still have to learn on the authentication. So let's forget about authentication, identity, and stuff for a while. And let's focus on something that you know so that you can go through the process of learning something new instead of learning two new things, you know? So that makes it easier. And when I think of Pizza de Dados, is like this amazing tool to help people understand that data science is actually a bunch of stuff bundled up together, right? Data science is not just one thing. It can be like forecasting, it can be demand prediction, it can be fraud detection. And people, when they first encounter the term data science, say, oh, now I know what I'm going to do. And actually, the answer is it depends. It depends on the team that you are going to work with. It depends on the company that we're going to work with. And so the data science can be many things and can wear many hats, right? You know, so when we started Pizza, we wanted to interview people that knew more about some things than we did on some specific areas of data science. Like we interviewed people from NLP, we interviewed people from recommendation and things like this. So that helped build awareness that there is much to be learned for people that don't even know how to ask the question. Like you know so little that you don't know how to Google what you need to learn, right? You know, when you're starting to learn something and
Yeah,
you say,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to question somebody. Like I need help to do something, but I don't even know how to phrase my question. And
Yeah.
hopefully Pizza has done that for many people. Like, oh, that is like interpreting data from text, and that is interpreting data from bioinformatics, and that is just all many other stuff that can be done inside data science.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, for example, my sister, she started to do like this thing with the file, like file manipulation, right? They should use like file system, and she didn't even know like what is that. Like, she was like, okay, how I save that? Like, how? Because she's doing the master, and the guy was like, okay, can you save this into a file? And then, as a person that is very newbie about Python, right? Like you don't know much. Like she knows a lot about mathematics, but how you can like pull up like a knowledge that you don't have about programming and like do the right question for Google. Like she was searching like different stuff and like was getting like completely different results. Like she was searching something and the guy was like, "Yeah, you can save into the cloud," and I was like, "No." This is not your search. Like your search is super simple. You should be looking like file system. And she was like, "What is that?" And then
Yeah.
yeah, it's just is way simple. But like if you don't know how to search or if you don't know the terms or anything like that, it's really hard to get into.
Yeah, and like Google can be a powerful thing or a scary thing, or maybe a little bit of both at times. Like if you know what you are looking for, it's really easy to use the right words to find the answer that you need. But what you do when you don't know and you don't have
Yeah.
anybody you can ask about it. So you kind of feel lost. And I can like relate to that because the way that I fix my feeling lost is actually studying like a lot of shit. And the things I do is basically like studying until I understand enough so I can ask the questions in a way that Google or somebody can answer them, you know? So that's just like very interesting to see like when somebody is starting anew on a topic and they know all of this bunch of stuff about some subject like your sister with mathematics, she knows a lot about probably doing equations and stuff, but she probably doesn't know there are tools that could help her do that easily, like NumPy and things like this. And
Yeah.
I believe she's very like very privileged that she has you that can help her guide her in a way that she can like find the answers. But most of the population don't have that, don't have like this support, like these people to support doing the learning process. And with the podcast, we can actually like reach a lot of people that don't even know something exists that can help them, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely understand. I do. I mean, I do. We reached that. Like actually she says that like about the privilege itself because her people with like her friends in the university they don't have anyone that is programmer in the family or stuff. So every time that is bad, literally I stopped to do everything that I'm doing to help her. Like I literally wrote like scripts for her use in the masters. But this is a privilege because like she have a brother that can help her with programming. But other people in their class they're just lost, you know, they can do much.
Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah, but I mean, it is good that I actually love that she's into programming. It feels so interesting, you know, like the conversations that we have sometimes. Because when you have a person that never was in programming and like this person now is like into that, like feels more close to your word, you know. Like I don't know how you feel about talk programming to people that never code.
Yeah, it's hard because I come from a family that didn't know that programming was a thing. My father is an economist. My mom was a nurse, and I used to say it's funny that you mentioned that you wanted to be a cardiologist because when I was little, I said I wanted to be a doctor, and then when got time that I wanted like to do like the exams to get into college, I said, medicine is not for me. I think I need to find something else. And then I found biomedical informatics that is kind of in the medicine field, but doesn't have to handle people. It only handles like the computer side of things.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because for a long time, everything that I did didn't make sense for my family because they didn't understand what I was doing. Not that they do now, but they get a sense that is important and that is like this rich environment that I can learn and that I can like might have career progression. And now that I'm in the Python community and I have like all this programming community, like the Go, women who go and things like this, I have like this collection of people that I can talk about the things that I do and that I'm passionate about and understand. Because one thing is like explain to your mom what you do, right? So I mom, you know, like when you have a spreadsheet and you have to like apply some kind of formula to get like a sum of something. Because my mom understands spreadsheets. You
Yeah.
know, my dad understands spreadsheets. He even did a little bit of coding, but he didn't understand what it was to be like a data science when I was a data science, or what it was that I did when I was a developer, you know? So you kind of try to make them understand, but they never truly grasp what it is that you do. My sister, she's in hospitality field, so she kind of understands what I do, and she messed around a little bit with HTML and CSS, so she knows a little bit about it, but she doesn't like programming. So when you talk about programming with someone that understands what you do and is passionate about it, it's a different feeling,
Yeah.
It's not, I wouldn't say that it's boring to talk to people that don't code about coding, because it's never boring to talk about coding, even if you have to find like very different ways to explain what you do. But it's different when somebody really understands. It's like me talking Portuguese to somebody that talks Portuguese. The communication is different than me talking English with somebody that speaks English only. Is the different types of communications that you have to have like this conversation and be a pleasant one, for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, also no is you. I mean, it was a perfect example. Like Portuguese, sometimes just by the pronunciation, I can understand what is the mood of the person. And the English for me is just like we talk, and I just like okay. I mean, I'm doing it, saying, and they can understand what I am saying. Surprisingly, but Flo was talking. Every time I was like, dude, I'm not gonna cook. Like, I'm super lazy to do that. And I was doing iFood like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times per night. And so good. That's just like, it's done. You are working there with like data, I suppose, right?
Yes, I was a data science working at iFood, and I worked with recommended systems there. So my idea was to recommend dishes or restaurants for people based on their preferred orders, let's say like this. So whenever somebody orders something, we would take that into account when like suggesting something to that person again.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you have done an amazing job, if you allow me to say.
Yeah, the team there of recommendations is great.
Yeah, I do miss iFood in Sweden. To be honest, like sometimes I swear to you, this is not even a joke. Like sometimes I just type iFood in the night. I just like okay, I'm gonna get some. I don't know, like get some food, and I just like iFood. Oh, okay. And in the beginning, iFood like UI really sucked. Like years ago.
Yeah.
And then they start to step up really fast. Like the iFood went from like okay, like I don't know, a very regular app or something that is now like studying users and like have a really good design. Yeah.
Yeah. So iFood at the beginning was almost like an MVP, like the minimal possible way to get somebody to buy via iFood instead of like calling the restaurant. And now is this amazing experience, right? So because it evolved really fast, and things at iFood like move in a speed of light. It's very fast, everything there. Plans change really fast and people adapt to it really fast. So it's kind of interesting to see like how it grew and how it evolved in so little time. Yeah, it's very interesting. And because it's funny when we say iFood, I don't know if everybody listening knows what iFood is, but it's kind of like Uber Eats, but only is much more known here in Latin America, right? And much more used like in Brazil than Uber Eats is. So that's one very interesting thing to note.
Yeah, exactly. Like, completely forgot to say because for me it's so popular in Brazil that I don't even like. Okay, but it's completely equal for Uber Eats. In fact, I do prefer iFood than Uber Eats, but it's another subject.
Yeah, I'm a bit biased, so I can't speak much about it.
Yeah, in Nuveo, like worked in the it. If I remember correctly, it was or it is, I don't know, like the Avelino company.
Yeah, he's still a partner, I think, but he's not working with. Actually, he left before I did, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, remember then we talked like a long time ago, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do a new company, and I want to work with Go." And I was like, "Do it, brother!" Like, I completely supported him. I mean, he was going to do anyway. Like, I just kind of like gave a thumbs up in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really like that guy. He every time that he have idea, he just go into that.
Yeah, he builds what he like is dreaming about. Is that is really impressive about him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the global, you work at with I remember, I think like I read one tweet that you posted a long time ago, but if I remember correctly, you were like studying insights to create like insights and like make information in like internal tools.
Yeah. So at Novell, I was a developer. I wasn't a data scientist there. Even though that you don't actually stop being a data scientist because you're not working with it. But I was a developer at Novell, and that gave me many like training. Let's say like this, like many knowledge into software engineering. But I always did a bunch of stuff when I was working. So whenever I went to Global, I actually was considered a hybrid person because I was a data scientist, but I also could act as a data engineer. So at the beginning, I started working with Big Brother Brazil data to generate insights on Big Brother Brazil. Then I worked a little bit with NLP, trying to analyze the some of the blog posts that we had in the portals from TV Global. And I ended up most of my time there working as a data engineer in an internal to give insights for the marketing and commercial teams. So the idea was to help them like sell better packages to the clients on like marketing and giving like ads to be like sold, you know. So yeah, at TV Global I was a data scientist.
Yeah, no, I mean, it can sounds like a very interesting thing, like to actually like like I don't know how you have the insights that you're going to the through like okay, and I'm performing well because you're actually studying the user, right?
Yeah, that's actually a hard question. And everybody like asks this question in data science. Like if you take recommendation, for instance, how do you know that your recommendation was good or not? And when you consider like complex systems like an app, things that can influence the type of result you get from the user is actually like if the UI changed or not. If the recommendation was good, it's not only the thing that you have to measure, you know. So to learn whether or not you're right, you have to do a bunch of tests, and that's how like A/B tests come into place. And from somebody from statistics, you may call it like hypothesis testing, and you try to figure out with a bunch of statistics method how to measure if like I don't know if I my others requests like increase, that was because of the change that I did or some other change and things like this. And you try to make experiments. So you separate part of like the users that you have into a pool of users that's going to, I don't know, receive some type of like recommendation or some type of information, and the other pool of users is your control, and that doesn't change, and to see if both of those having a change and not having a change did impact in some kind of way. And you try to measure this, and there is like a bunch of study on how to do this, on how this works, and you try to figure out before you actually put things in production, doing analysis and more analysis and more analysis until you finally get a result that is indicative that things might work. And then you deploy it to production and see if it actually works, because sometimes your data doesn't actually represent the reality. It's very complex thing if you come to think about it right now.
Yeah,
When
no, I
I
mean, we
yeah,
had
I was
we had a team for that in the global play when I
yeah,
was working there, and like the metrics, like how the things that we wanted to like reduce. I think we worked for churn, like to remove like
yeah.
users to leave, right, and to make like a retention, and like we had different metrics and stuff like that. But the thing, it was just like for me, I was just amazed, like, oh my god, how we know they're going towards like the right thing? Because I mean, we do have like some ideas, but the guys that worked with that data, they actually have the really good insights. Like, okay, so if it's not performing here, maybe it's performing there, and it's super good to work towards to data. Like the data is actually leading you to make the decisions.
Yeah, and even if you like talk about what I do now as a developer at Zero, actually data drives us too, because we keep thinking about like, I don't know, signups to the website based on the content that we wrote or that the videos that we record and release. and like how many talks we can give in a year and things like this. So metrics actually move a lot of like cogs in the machine that is a company, It's not only like the data science that have metrics. As a developer, you also have metrics, like you have the KPIs and you have like the tasks that you have to complete inside the sprint, So if you come to think about it, actually data is everywhere, not only like the data people, what I like to call the data people,
Yeah. No, I mean, exactly. And how have you worked like in a place that is not oriented to data?
Oh yeah. There is so many things about data. People can be like data informed. They get the insight and they understand the insight, but they don't act on it. And they can be data driven, which is like, oh, I'm only going to move the needle or my ideas or my KPIs based on information we get from the data, So yeah, of course I did work on places that didn't take data into account, even though data was everywhere around.
Yeah, it's just it's a little bit weird for me now because like even Spotify, GoDaddy, and like and Globo, they were like really into data. I mean, not maybe not some things that I worked, but the things that I stayed more time was
Yeah.
really focused on data. But like I remember a few things that I worked on, and they were like, okay, let's do this button, but nobody really tested like if that button could like be better than the other button. And
Yeah.
was basically because my project manager really liked the second button, and I was like, cool. Like as a programmer, I was just like, cool. Even though that I came with like, guys, we should test that. I was just like too lazy, I think, to like okay, like if your team is not doing like data driven, why? I thought that the fight was too complicated to like bring into the team, but it's in the same way you're not like doing things for the user, you're just doing things because you think it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. You have to have some sense into what we're doing, right? A long time ago, people used to do research like, oh, look at this screen, see what you come of it. So the goal is to do a sign up. What is like the user flow to get to the sign up button, on what does the user does on your website, and based on that information, they would like decide whether or not place a button in some place, right? The only thing that changed about this, you have like a huge scale depending on like what your company works with and what your company does, so you have to take data into account because you can't measure like using on user by user basis because you have like a billion users in the database, and you have to find a balance between everybody so that everybody like orders more, things like this.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I do understand. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that actually this is a wrap up, and I'm so happy that we had this conversation actually.
Oh, me too. I'm so happy to get the invite. It was actually very fun to you today.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to interview you for the fourth season, but I was super, I was super like, okay, maybe I need to wrap up the first season even earlier than I thought. But I was like, okay, he's definitely one person that I want to interview, and I was like, gonna try my best to do like the second season with you. So I really appreciate that we had the time to talk.
Yeah, me too. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and I mean, you're always invited. If I do other season, you're always invited.
Oh, please do. I love to talk. It's always fun.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.